Dr. Gamble introduces us to the original human operating system. Long before biology, long before DNA, before cells you existed as what he eloquently terms a luminous gestalt.
Let's define that term. A gestalt is an organized whole that is perceived as more than the sum of its parts. In Tier 0, you are a unique perspective within a unified whole.
A specific point of view.
Yes, you aren't a separate, isolated island cut off from everything else. You are a specific, beautifully unique focal point of the entire universe experiencing itself.
Dr. Gamble calls this non-local subjectivity. I love this concept, but it's tricky to grasp. Essentially, you are not in a body. The body, or rather the luminous form, was just a temporary focal point within your vast, infinite field of awareness.
You weren't trapped inside a container.
No, you didn't look out at the universe through two tiny eye holes and a bone skull. The universe looked at a specific point through you.
This raises an important question about identity, which Track B has completely distorted. In our current reality, we identify heavily with our physical boundaries. Where my skin ends, the rest of the world begins. I am inside this skin, you are outside of it.
A very hard boundary.
But as a luminous gestalt, your boundary wasn't a wall, it was a lens. You are the universe focusing its attention on one specific, glorious note of existence while still remaining entirely connected to the whole symphony.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If I'm a lens, what did that lens actually look like? What was the geometric shape of this luminous gestalt floating in the primordial waters?
The geometry is key.
Dr. Gamble identifies the primary hardware of the soul as the toroidal vortex, the torus.
The torus is one of the most fundamental and profound geometric shapes in existence. Picture a perfectly symmetrical, self-sustaining, donut-shaped energy field. Energy flows up through the center crests over the top, flows down the outside, and curls back underneath to enter the center again.
A continuous, infinite loop of motion.
Exact.
Okay, stop right there. I have to play devil's advocate for the listener. Are you telling me that physically, at my foundational core, I am just a spinning energy donut?
It sounds strange when you put it like that.
How does that actually square with the human experience? Because I don't feel like a spinning donut. I feel like a person who gets tired and needs a cup of coffee.
It's an excellent point of friction. You don't feel like a torus right now because you're currently operating within the heavy constraints of Track B biology.
We are buried under the density.
But the torus is the underlying blueprint, the energetic scaffolding upon which your biological form is draped. And the key difference between this toroidal vortex and everything we know in our Track B world is how it gets its power.
The energy source.
We live in an entropic reality. To get energy, we have to consume things. We burn coal, we eat food, we use up batteries. We are constantly running out of fuel and fighting a losing battle against decay.
Constantly refilling the tank.
But the toroidal vortex in Tier 0 operates on a principle called Centropy.
Centropy, the exact opposite of entropy. Instead of breaking things down to get energy, a centropic system generates energy through its own perfect organization and spin. The toroidal vortex doesn't need to eat. It doesn't consume fuel. It is an infinite battery.
Precisely. And if we look at the geometry of the torus, we see exactly how it does this. It pulls power directly from the 0-point center, the absolute middle of the donut, whole, the singularity.
The very center of your being.
That center point is connected directly to the infinite potential of the primordial waters we just discussed. By spinning in perfect frictionless harmony, the torus draws infinite energy from the vacuum itself. It generates power purely through the act of its own perfectly balanced rotation.
It is a literal perpetual motion machine of consciousness. And the geometry of the torus perfectly maps onto the luminous gestalt we talked about. The outer boundary of the torus, the outer skin of the spinning energy field, defines you.
It provides the individual perspective.
It gives you that unique signature in the universe. But the central singularity, the hole in the middle where the energy rushes in, that connects you directly to all.
It is the perfect marriage of individuality and absolute unity. You have a unique, distinct identity on the outer edge, but at your core, at your absolute center, you are indistinguishably one with the entire universe.
An individual drop that is simultaneously perfectly aware of being the entire ocean. It is just breathtaking to think about. But this leads me to a massive logistical question. If you are the spinning toroidal vortex in an infinite ocean of frictionless superfluid, how do you move around? How do you go explore this perfectly coherent universe?
The mechanics of travel.
Because without distance, without gravity, and without resistance, travel has to look completely different.
This is where we have to take the concept of distance and delete it from our minds entirely. In our current reality, if you want to go from point A to point B, you have to cross the physical space between them.
You have to physically move.
You have to use locomotion. You drive a car, you fly a ship, you expend energy to push through the resistance of the environment.
But in Tier 0, in the superfluid Higgs field 1.0, there is no resistance to push against. There is zero friction. If you try to swim in a frictionless ocean, you won't go anywhere because there's no water to push off of.
It just slips right past you.
So locomotion is not just impossible, it's completely unnecessary. Dr. Gamble introduces the concept of toroidal resonance. You don't travel by moving your legs or firing thrusters, you travel by frequency matching.
Everything in the Tier 0 universe has its own unique frequency, its own specific note, if you will. Every star, every other luminous gestalt, every point of data vibrates at a highly specific resonance.
It's a specific signature vibration.
But because the universe is a single entangled superfluid, all of those notes are instantly accessible everywhere at once.
Let me break this down with a practical analogy. Imagine you are in a room holding a tuning fork, and across the room is a grand piano. If you strike the tuning fork to a perfect A note, the A string inside the piano will automatically start to vibrate in sympathy.
Acoustic resonance.
They resonate together, completely bridging the physical gap between them without anything physically crossing the room. Now apply that to the toroidal vortex.
If you as a luminous gestalt want to visit a distant star or experience another perspective, you don't travel across millions of light years of empty space. Instead, you simply adjust the internal spin and vibration of your toroidal vortex to perfectly match the unique frequency of that star.
You tune your own internal tuning fork to match your destination. Dr. Gamble calls this the handshake protocol. Because the primordial waters have zero resistance the moment you perfectly match that frequency, you create a phase lock.
You synchronize entirely.
You establish an instantaneous handshake with that destination. I want to try to ground this in a human experience. Have you ever walked into a room, maybe a party or a meeting, and instantly, without a word being spoken, you perfectly matched the vibe of the room?
You can just feel the energy.
You felt completely in sync with the people there, you resonated with them. Now take that feeling and extrapolate it to the scale of astrophysics.
That is exactly the dynamic. And this highlights the most critical distinction we must understand about Tier 0. Zero latency. Zero resistance. In our heavy track B reality, locomotion requires immense physical effort and time to push through space.
Resonance.
Resonance requires purely internal alignment. You don't go there. You vibrate until you realize you are there.
That is the concept that gives me chills every time I read Dr. Gamble's notes. There is just a different vibration of here. You change your frequency and the universe instantly reorganizes itself around your new resonance.
Instantaneous repositioning.
It is teleportation achieved not by speed, but by perfect harmonic alignment.
It emphasizes that in the original architecture, consciousness is the ultimate driver of experience. You aren't a victim of your location. Your location is a direct reflection of your resonant state. It is an architecture of absolute sovereignty and freedom.